Some mysteries are too deep to solve, especially those rooted in traditions older than America itself. Today, we will tell you about a mysterious death that shook both the Indian diaspora in Chicago and the city's police department, a death that intertwined caste prejudice, career ambitions, and possibly personal revenge. About the tragedy that happened in an elite skyscraper overlooking Lake Michigan, but whose roots go back to the remote villages of India. Late in the evening of March 17, 2025, Arjun Rao, a 34-year-old Google programmer, returns from a corporate party to his penthouse in River North, one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in Chicago. He is carrying a bouquet of red roses for his wife and a box of her favorite Indian sweets. It was supposed to be a normal evening for a successful immigrant couple. But when he opens the door to his apartment, he is greeted by eerie silence. He calls out to his wife, but there is no answer. He enters the bedroom and finds Lakshmi Rao, a 32-year-old biotechnologist, unconscious on the bed. No signs of struggle, no signs of forced entry. The apartment door was locked from the inside. I tried to wake her up, gave her artificial respiration, but she didn't respond. It was terrible, like she just fell asleep and didn't wake up, Arjun would later tell detectives. The ambulance arrived in 12 minutes but pronounced her dead. The preliminary cause was cardiac arrest. Lakshmi Rao died about 2 hours before her husband returned home. And here begins one of the most mysterious crime stories in the modern Indian diaspora in the United States. Who was Lakshmi Rao? A talented researcher from the prestigious Bengaluru Institute of Science, the daughter of the influential Brahmin Narayan family from Mumbai. She worked for the biotechnology company NextGen Pharmaceuticals, specializing in the development of innovative drugs. Her colleagues described her as brilliant, ambitious, and extremely hardworking. Lakshmi was a genius in her field, but she always remained modest and quiet, a typical Indian woman who combines traditional values with modern ambition, recalls her supervisor, Dr. Rachel Wong. Arjun and Lakshmi met in India at an IT company in Bangalore, where they both worked after graduation. Their wedding 3 years ago caused a scandal in the highest circles of Indian society. Lakshmi came from a Brahmin family, the highest caste, while Arjun was from a Shudra family, a caste of laborers and servants. My sister defied thousands of years of tradition for the sake of love. Our parents were against it, especially my uncle Suresh. He even threatened to disown her, says Lakshmi's brother, Vishnu Narayan, who flew in from Mumbai for the funeral. The first thing that strikes Detective Michael Rodriguez is the lack of obvious motives for the murder. The couple seemed happy, financially secure, with no apparent problems. No signs of domestic violence in the past. However, he noticed a strange detail. Lakshmi did not have a phone with her, although she always carried it. The smartphone was found in the kitchen sink, partially damaged by water. It was strange that the phone of a highly educated woman who worked in the technology field was destroyed in such an unprofessional manner, Detective Rodriguez said in his report. On the third day of the investigation, Lakshmi's parents, Vijay and Priyanka Narayan, arrive in Chicago. A wealthy couple from Mumbai, owners of a chain of jewelry stores, they immediately come up with a shocking theory. Our daughter was killed because she violated caste laws. It's revenge for her marrying a lower caste man, Vijay Narayan says at a meeting with detectives. The Chicago police are initially skeptical of this version. For Western law enforcement, India's caste system is a distant, almost mythical phenomenon. But as they begin to delve deeper into the life of the Indian diaspora, a hidden world of ancient prejudice is revealed that continues to live on even in modern America. We discovered some strange anonymous letters that Lakshmi had been receiving in recent months. One of them stated bluntly, "You have polluted the purity of your blood, and there is a price to pay," says Detective Rodriguez. Arjun Rao becomes the first suspect, as is often the case in cases of mysterious wife deaths. But his alibi looks strong. Dozens of colleagues confirm his presence at the Google corporate party, from which he left only at 9:45 p.m., and video cameras in the lobby of the building recorded his return at 10:10 p.m. The medical examiner, Dr. Lee, comes back with some unexpected news after the autopsy. Traces of a rare plant poison were found in Ms. Rao's blood. It's not something you can buy at the drugstore or find in a typical American garden. Meanwhile, Lakshmi's parents insist on their version of events and recall another character, Lakshmi's uncle, Suresh Narayan, a fanatical defender of caste traditions who openly opposed his niece's marriage. He swore that she would regret her choice. Suresh believes that violation of caste rules leads to the decline of the whole society, explains Priyanka Narayan, Lakshmi's mother. A check of immigration records reveals a disturbing detail. Suresh Narayan visited Chicago 2 weeks before Lakshmi's death. Officially, it was to participate in a conference on Indian culture, but the surveillance cameras did not record his visit to his niece. The case becomes more complicated when detectives discover that Lakshmi kept a secret diary in an encrypted app on her backup phone. The last entry is dated the day she died. Today I found out everything. I can't believe I was so blind, but now I know the truth and I have to do something. What exactly did Lakshmi know? Who was she protecting herself from by encrypting her thoughts? And is her death really the result of ancient caste prejudice carried over into modern America? Or does this convenient version hide something else? Personal betrayal, professional competition, or financial secrets? In this case, every answer raises 10 new questions, admits Detective Rodriguez. We have an Indian woman who died from a rare Indian poison in her American apartment, and a list of suspects who all have a motive, but none of them had an easy time committing the crime. The investigation is just beginning, and it will take us far beyond the usual criminal case, into a world where ancient traditions collide with modern ambitions, and caste prejudice intertwines with personal drama. Love crosses borders, but sometimes it cannot overcome millennial traditions. To understand the mysterious death of Lakshmi Rao in Chicago, we need to go back 5 years to noisy and chaotic Bangalore, India's Silicon Valley, where two young people from different worlds met. Bangalore, 2020, the headquarters of Technovista Solutions. It was here that Lakshmi Narayan, a graduate of the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology in Mumbai, began her career as a bioinformatician. Her colleagues remember her as a brilliant, focused, and extremely ambitious young woman. She was always surrounded by books. Even during her lunch break, she would read scientific articles, recalls former colleague Priya Singh. Lakshmi came from a Brahmin family, the highest caste, and you could feel it in her manner of carrying herself with dignity, even a certain aloofness. Arjun Rao, a talented programmer from rural Karnataka, worked in the same office. He joined Technovista after completing his studies at a less prestigious university in Mysore. Unlike Lakshmi, Arjun came from a family of Shudras, a caste of laborers and artisans traditionally considered to be lower in the Indian hierarchy. Arjun was a coding genius, but a very humble guy. He achieved everything on his own, without connections or money. His father worked as a rickshaw driver in Mysore, says Samit Gupta, their former boss. They met while working on a joint project, a biomedical data analysis system. At first, they only interacted professionally, but gradually work discussions turned into personal conversations and then into secret meetings after work. Their worlds were so different. Lakshmi lived in an upscale neighborhood and drove a car with a driver. Arjun rented a room in the suburbs and took a crowded bus to work, says Divya Chawla, Lakshmi's closest friend. Divya, who now also lives in Chicago, was the only one who knew about their relationship from the beginning. She recalls how Lakshmi changed when she fell in love with Arjun. For the first time in her life, she was doing something not according to plan. Her eyes would shine when she talked about him. When their relationship became serious, Lakshmi decided to tell her parents. The reaction was exactly what she had feared. "Are you crazy? Our family has maintained the purity of the Brahmin bloodline for 27 generations. Do you want to destroy everything for some Shudra?" Her father, Vijay Narayan, shouted during a family dinner. But the strongest resistance came from Lakshmi's uncle, Suresh Narayan. her father's older brother and head of the family business. Suresh was known for his ultra-conservative views and ties to the Dharma Defenders organization, which defended the preservation of the caste system. Suresh's uncle threatened to disown me, to disinherit me. But worst of all, he said that Arjun would disappear if I didn't end this relationship, Lakshmi wrote in her diary, which detectives found. Despite family pressure, Lakshmi decided to fight for her love. She and Arjun became secretly engaged and began planning a future together away from caste prejudice in the United States. It was their escape plan. Arjun got an offer from Google in Chicago, and Lakshmi found a job at a biotech company. They saw America as a land where caste did not matter, Divya recalls. In May 2022, after informing their family only a day before the ceremony, Lakshmi and Arjun got married at a marriage registration office in Bangalore. Only Lakshmi's younger sister, Indira, was present to support them. It was simple and sad at the same time. Lakshmi wore a simple sari instead of a traditional wedding dress. No usual rituals, no priest, no family, says Indira Narayan. After the wedding, what Lakshmi feared happened. Her family officially disowned her. A month later, the couple flew to Chicago to start a new life. The first 2 years in America were the happiest for them. They enjoyed their freedom, built their careers, and traveled. Arjun was quickly advancing at Google, and Lakshmi made several important scientific discoveries in her company, recalls Divya, who regularly communicated with her friend. But the happiness turned out to be fragile. About 6 months before the tragedy, Lakshmi began to notice strange things. First, anonymous threatening emails, then the feeling that she was being followed. One day, she saw a man outside her office who looked like her uncle's co-worker. She started to get scared. She installed additional locks on the door and changed all the passwords. Arjun thought it was paranoia, stress from work, says Divya, who became the main witness in the case. 3 weeks before her death, an event occurred that made Lakshmi believe the danger was real. She received a package from India with no return address. Inside was a traditional Indian bracelet and a note in Sanskrit: "Blood always wins." She called me in tears. She said it was a message from her uncle Suresh. This bracelet belonged to her grandmother and symbolized the purity of the family line, Diva recalls. An analysis of Lakshmi's internet searches over the last 2 weeks of her life reveals her growing anxiety. She searched for information about traditional Indian poisons, ways to detect surveillance, and legal avenues to obtain protection from persecution. In the last week of her life, Lakshmi made some strange moves. She withdrew a significant amount of cash, executed a will, and opened a safe deposit box at the bank where she had placed some documents. The contents of this safe became one of the key elements of the investigation. It was as if she was preparing for something terrible. The last time we spoke, she said a phrase that now sounds like a premonition. "If something happens to me, remember it's not Arjun," Diva recalls, wiping away tears. But there was another mysterious detail that surfaced only after Lakshmi's death. In her lab, she was working on a project to identify cancer biomarkers. And 2 days before her death, she sent an encrypted archive with research data to her personal email. This was a violation of corporate policy. Lakshmi had never taken work data outside the lab before, says her supervisor, Dr. Sharma. What made the disciplined researcher break the rules? What was in that data? And how does it relate to her mysterious death? Did the past really catch up with the young couple in their new American life? The investigation revealed that a week before her death, Lakshmi received a strange phone call from India. The conversation lasted almost an hour. Afterwards, she looked depressed and told Arjun that they needed to have a serious talk, but kept putting it off. I don't know what she wanted to talk about. She said it could wait until the weekend, but we never talked. Arjun recalls, still shocked by the loss of his wife. Lakshmi and Arjun's story is a love story that defied millennia of tradition, but it's also a story about how the past is not so easy to leave behind, especially when it comes to deeply entrenched social structures like India's caste system. They thought America would protect them from caste prejudice, but some traditions transcend oceans and borders. They live in the minds of people who take them with them wherever they go, says Anita Desai, a professor of sociology at the University of Chicago. Now detectives will have to untangle a complex tangle of cultural traditions, family conflicts, and possibly professional secrets to understand who took the life of a young Indian woman who simply wanted to live by her own rules, and why. In every investigation, the hardest part is distinguishing facts from cultural biases. Detective Michael Rodriguez stands at a whiteboard with photos and notes in a Chicago police station with 15 years of police experience. But this case has him stumped. The cultural context he is trying to understand is as foreign to him as the Sanskrit language on the cryptic note found in the victim's apartment. So, we have an upper caste Indian woman who died of poisoning in an apartment, locked from the inside. Her husband has an alibi. Her parents claim it was caste revenge. And we have no idea how this caste system works, Rodriguez concludes to his partner, Detective Sarah Chen. The first breakthrough in the case comes from the forensics lab. Dr. Lee calls the detectives in and shows them the results of the toxicology test. We found traces of a plant poison known as datura in her system. This is a plant from the nightshade family that grows in India. It contains a high concentration of tryptane alkaloids that cause paralysis of the heart muscle, the expert explains, showing pictures of the plant with white flowers that look like gramophones. The most interesting thing is that this poison is virtually undetectable in conventional toxicological screening. We found it only because we expanded the range of analysis after a request from the victim's parents. How did it get into the body? Asks Rodriguez. Most likely through tea. Traces of the poison were also found in the cup found on the night table. It was masked by spices, cardamom, ginger, cinnamon, classic masala tea. Detectives examine the house's surveillance cameras and find that no one came to Lakshmi's house on the day of her death. This means that either the poison was mixed in advance or Lakshmi made the poisoned tea herself, which seems unlikely. At the same time, the department's IT specialists analyze Lakshmi's electronic devices. The results shock the detectives. A week before her death, her work email was hacked. Professionally, using sophisticated algorithms, it was hacked from an IP address in India, reports technical expert Jason Wong. What were they looking for in her email? Rodriguez clarifies. It seems that the hacker was interested in specific research files related to her work, and also her personal correspondence with her husband. Detective Chen, meanwhile, has been showing strange financial activity. Over the past 3 months, the couple's joint account has received several large transfers from India, totaling more than $75,000. The money came from a company in Mumbai owned by, guess who? Suresh Narayan, Lakshmi's uncle, she says. When the detectives ask Arjun about the money, he looks puzzled. I didn't know about these transfers. Lakshmi was in charge of our finances. Maybe it has something to do with her share in the family business? But her family disowned her. His voice trembles, which does not go unnoticed by the detectives. Arjun starts to behave more and more nervously. At first, he refuses to give access to his personal email, then suddenly remembers a forgotten detail, that on the night of his wife's death, he briefly left a corporate party. I went out for 20 to 30 minutes to buy headache medicine at the pharmacy, he explains. When the detectives check this information, it turns out that Arjun did indeed buy medicine at a pharmacy a few blocks from the Google office at 8:17 p.m. But his car did not appear on the building's surveillance cameras at that time. He could have theoretically driven home, poisoned his wife, and returned to the party. There would have been enough time, even if it was close, Rodriguez said. But the detectives are most concerned about the visit to Chicago by Lakshmi's uncle, Suresh Narayan. Immigration records confirm that he arrived in the United States 2 weeks before the tragedy and stayed in the country for 4 days. Suresh Narayan was staying at the Marriott Hotel, a 15-minute drive from his niece's apartment. but the hotel cameras show that on the day of his arrival, he left the hotel for several hours. "Where did he go?" asks Chen. Through the international department, the police are trying to get permission to question Suresh in India, but the process is complicated by diplomatic formalities. Meanwhile, while examining the contents of Lakshmi's safe, detectives find a flash drive with encrypted files and a folder with documents related to a patent for a biotechnology discovery. She protected an important biomarker for pancreatic cancer. "This patent is potentially worth millions," explains the intellectual property consultant. Another find is Lakshmi's personal diary, with a strange entry dated a month before her death. "Today, I received an offer that is hard to refuse, but if I accept, it will be a betrayal of everything I believe in. And yet, family ties are sometimes stronger than personal convictions." What kind of offer are we talking about? And from whom did it come? Detective Rodriguez feels like he's getting closer to the solution, but key details are still eluding him. The case takes a sudden turn when a computer expert breaks the encryption on a flash drive. It reveals documents that show that Lakshmi has received threats from the Dharma Defenders organization, the same organization with which her uncle Suresh is associated. "We're getting deeper and deeper into a cultural context we don't understand," Rodriguez admits. "We need the help of someone who knows the traditions and understands the caste system from the inside." Professor Vishnu Sharma, from the Department of South Asian Studies at the University of Chicago, is that consultant. "What you're facing, detective, is a conflict between ancient traditions and the modern reality of caste in India. It's not just a social stratification, it's a religious concept of purity and pollution. For some Orthodox Hindus, intercaste marriage is not just a violation of tradition, but a religious crime," the professor explains. The investigation goes to a new level when the detectives decide to check the alibis of everyone involved in the case. And then an unexpected clue emerges. Arjun's colleague at Google, Vikram Mehta, gives conflicting accounts of the time Arjun left the corporate party. Behind the most mysterious crimes are not perfect plans, but convoluted motives. The contradictory testimony of Vikram Mehta, Arjun's colleague at Google, forces detectives to dig deeper into the Rao couple's professional life. Vikram claimed that Arjun left the corporate party not for 20 to 30 minutes, as the suspect himself said, but for a much longer time, about an hour. Arjun disappeared around 8 p.m. and returned just before the event ended, around 9 p.m. He looked tense, drank whiskey in one gulp, Vikram testified during the interrogation. But why would a colleague lie? Detective Rodriguez decides to dig deeper and discovers that there was professional competition between Arjun and Vikram. The two worked on the same team on an artificial intelligence project, and Arjun had recently been promoted, beating Vikram to the top. The project they were working on was called Indra, after the Hindu god of thunder. It's a behavioral prediction system based on biometric data analysis, explains a Google employee who wishes to remain anonymous. When detectives begin to investigate this area, they come across a strange coincidence. Indra worked with massive amounts of medical data, including genetic markers that could determine predisposition to certain diseases. And Lakshmi, Arjun's wife, specialized in cancer biomarkers. We found a series of encrypted messages between Arjun and Lakshmi discussing the ethical aspects of using genetic data, the technical expert reports. In one of the messages, Lakshmi wrote, "If what you said is true, it violates all ethical norms. Patient data is being used without proper consent. This is a crime, Arjun." At the same time, the detectives are investigating the connections of Lakshmi's uncle, Suresh Narayan, with the Dharma Defenders organization. Through contacts in the FBI, they receive information that this group is known for its radical views on preserving caste purity and has ties to influential politicians in India. Interestingly, the Dharma Defenders are funded by several Bangalore-based tech companies, and one of them, Innotech, has a partnership with Google for a data analytics project, says Detective Chen. This makes investigators take a fresh look at the case. Is it possible that Lakshmi's death is not only related to caste prejudice, but also to business interests? The breakthrough comes when police IT specialists find traces of deleted files on Lakshmi's computer. After recovering them, the detectives find a presentation she was preparing for her company's management. It discussed the ethical issues of using biomarkers to predict disease and the potential misuse of such data. It seems that Lakshmi had discovered something serious and was preparing to expose it, Rodriguez suggests. Meanwhile, a search of the Rao couple's apartment reveals a startling discovery: a hidden camera mounted in the wall clock in the living room. The camera was professionally installed and transmitted data via an encrypted channel. The camera was activated a month before Lakshmi's death. We were able to track the signal to a server in India, explains the technical expert. When the detectives confront Arjun with this discovery, he looks genuinely shocked. "I didn't know anything about this camera. Was someone spying on us? Oh my God." This explains why Lakshmi has been so paranoid lately. She felt like we were being watched. But the most startling information comes from Divya Chawla, Lakshmi's best friend. During the second interrogation, she finally reveals what she had been hiding. Lakshmi was planning to leave Arjun. She was afraid of him. A week before she died, she told me that she had discovered something terrible about a project he was working on, something that could have ruined his career. And she suspected that he had found out about her intentions. Divya also says that Lakshmi found strange searches on her husband's laptop about methods of poisoning that leave no trace. She was going to rent an apartment and move. She had a ticket to India for the next month. She wanted to make peace with her family, even if it meant admitting that they were right about Arjun. This information leads the detectives to check the search history on Arjun's computer. And indeed, they find searches for imperceptible poisons, plant toxins, and specifically for datura, the very poison that killed Lakshmi. When Arjun is interrogated again as the main suspect, he breaks down and admits that he knew about his wife's intentions to leave him. But he categorically denies any involvement in her death. "Yes, I was looking for information about the poisons, but not to kill Lakshmi. I suspected that my Google project was being misused. The Indra system was supposed to predict susceptibility to disease, but someone had modified the algorithms to identify genetic markers related to caste." According to Arjun, he discovered that Innotech, a Google partner in India, had used the project's data to create a caste recognition system based on genetic markers. And this technology could allow Dharma defenders to identify cases of blood pollution in intercaste marriages. "I studied poisons because I received threats. Someone sent me a message that I would die from the flower of justice, as datura is called in India," Arjun explains, barely holding back tears. His confession presents the investigation with a new mystery. If Arjun did not poison Lakshmi, then who did? And how did the poison get into the tea if no one entered the apartment? The answer comes unexpectedly when experts check the gifts Lakshmi received from India a week before her death. Among them was a traditional set of spices for masala tea from an anonymous well-wisher. The spice mixture contained microparticles of datura, not enough to cause death from one use, but with regular use, the poison accumulated in the body, the toxicologist explains. Meanwhile, information about an underground caste recognition project causes a scandal in the tech community. Google suspends the Indra project and launches an internal investigation. And detectives receive permission to interrogate Suresh Narayan, who finally agrees to answer questions via video. The deepest wounds are inflicted by those we trust the most. The video interrogation of Suresh Narayan takes place in a tense atmosphere. A stern man with graying temples and a cold gaze looks at the detectives from the screen. He is sitting in a luxurious office with portraits of his ancestors and religious symbols behind him. "Yes, I visited Chicago before Lakshmi died, but not to harm her," Suresh says in a calm voice. "I came to warn her. My niece made a mistake in choosing an unworthy man, but she was still part of our family, our blood." "What did you want to warn her about?" Rodriguez asks. about the betrayal, not mine, but her husband's, and the danger of the project he was working on. Suresh says that he hired a private detective to follow his niece's life in America. And this detective discovered shocking information. Arjun was using his wife to access the biomedical data needed for the Indra project. But your niece was a scientist herself. She would have recognized the unethical use of the data, says Detective Chen. Of course she would. That's why I wanted to warn her. But she refused to meet with me. She sent me a message that she no longer needed my help. She said she had found another way out. After interrogating Suresh, the detectives feel that he is hiding something, but they cannot figure out what it is. Meanwhile, an analysis of the recovered files from Lakshmi's computer yields a shocking discovery: a series of encrypted messages between her and Vikram Mehta, a colleague of her husband's. They were having an affair, states the technical expert, showing the decrypted messages. According to the correspondence, their relationship lasted about 6 months. The detectives immediately call Vikram in for a second interrogation. Backed into a corner by the evidence, he confesses, "Yes, we had a relationship. We met at a corporate event where Arjun brought his wife. At first, we just talked about science, ethics, and technology. Lakshmi was not just beautiful, she was brilliant. She understood things that even Arjun did not understand." "When did your relationship become intimate?" Rodriguez asks. "About 8 months ago. Lakshmi began to suspect that her husband's project had an unethical component. She came to me for confirmation because I was also working on Indra. One conversation led to another and you started meeting behind her husband's back, your colleague," the detective concluded. Vikram nodded, his eyes downcast. But the real shock was to come. Lakshmi was pregnant, Vikram admits. She found out a week before she died. The baby was mine. This news forces the detectives to return to the pathologist's report. Indeed, the report states that Lakshmi was in the early stages of pregnancy, approximately 8 weeks. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" asks Chen, barely able to contain his anger. "I was afraid. When Lakshmi died, I thought Arjun might have found out about us and..." Vikram's voice breaks. He shows the detectives their last correspondence. Lakshmi wrote that she was planning to leave her husband and talk to him frankly. She and Vikram wanted to start a new life together with their child. She was going to tell Arjun everything the night she died, Vikram concludes. This information completely changes the picture of the crime. The detectives arrest Arjun again, this time with more solid evidence. When they research his belongings, they find a flash drive with recordings from a hidden camera in his apartment. One of the videos shows Lakshmi meeting Vikram at their home while Arjun is at work. However, Arjun continues to insist on his innocence. "Yes, I knew about their affair. I knew for months. I installed the camera to have evidence for the divorce, but I didn't kill her." "Did you know she was pregnant?" asks Rodriguez. Arjun's face changes, showing genuine shock. "Pregnant? No, I didn't know that. This is impossible." The detectives check his alibi again, more thoroughly, and they find a serious discrepancy. The pharmacy's surveillance footage shows that Arjun did not buy the medication at 8:17 p.m., as he claimed, but at 7:45 p.m. This gives him enough time to get home, put the poison in his wife's tea, and return to the party. He had a motive: his wife's infidelity, her pregnancy by another man, her plans to leave him. And he had the opportunity, Chen concludes. But the investigation becomes more complicated when cybercrime experts discover that Suresh Narayan had made darknet searches for Datura a month before Lakshmi's death. Moreover, he had been using anonymous cryptocurrency transactions to buy ingredients for the poison. "We now have 2 strong suspects with motives and capabilities," Rodriguez said. "Arjun is motivated by jealousy and betrayal, and Suresh is motivated by caste prejudice and family honor." The situation becomes even more complicated when Lakshmi's parents publicly accuse Arjun of killing their daughter. At the press conference, Vijay Narayan, Lakshmi's father, gives an emotional speech. "My daughter made a mistake by choosing this man, but she realized it and was going to return home to her real family. He could not let that happen and took her life, and the life of her unborn child." Public opinion is tilting against Arjun, especially among the Indian diaspora. Protests are held outside the police station demanding justice for Lakshmi. Meanwhile, detectives discover another strange fact. The day before her death, Lakshmi withdrew a large amount of cash and met with an unknown person in the park. Surveillance cameras recorded the meeting, but the person is difficult to identify. A man wearing a hat and sunglasses. Could Lakshmi have bought the poison herself? Perhaps, after learning about her husband's project, she decided that she could no longer live in this marriage, but was also afraid of divorce because of caste traditions? The psychologist involved in the case hypothesizes. Rodriguez rejects this version. Suicide? With all the evidence of planning a new life with Vikram? With a pregnancy? No, she definitely wanted to live. Detective Chen discovers that on the day of Lakshmi's death, documents were uploaded to her backup cloud storage, including a dossier on the Indra project with evidence of unethical use of data and an audio recording of her conversation with Arjun where he admits to knowing about her affair with Vikram. This is exactly what was missing. Arjun's motive for murder is now proven. He knew about the affair, he knew she was gathering evidence against his project, and he decided to stop her, Chen said. But Rodriguez still has his doubts. What about Suresh? Why did he buy the poison? And who was that mysterious man in the park? The case is gaining international publicity. The Indian press writes about the American tragedy of a Brahmin's daughter. The American media discusses the cultural conflict that led to the murder. And the truth seems to be becoming more and more elusive. Sometimes even the most thorough investigation cannot reveal the only truth, 6 months after Lakshmi Rao's death. Detective Rodriguez's office is littered with papers, photographs, and expert reports. On the wall is a diagram of the connections between all the suspects, which looks more like a tangled web than a clear picture of the crime. In most cases, the evidence gradually adds up to a single puzzle, Rodriguez reflects, looking at his notes. But in this case, each new discovery only complicates the puzzle. The last month of the investigation has brought a series of shocking revelations that have turned the case on its head. And the first of them is that the mysterious man from the park has finally been identified. He was a private detective, Rajiv Patel, hired by Suresh Narayan. Under pressure from the evidence, Patel confessed that he had given Lakshmi a dossier on her husband, which had been compiled at the request of her uncle. The dossier contained evidence not only of Arjun's work on the dubious Indra project, but also financial reports showing that he had received substantial funds from Indian investors associated with the Dharma Defenders Organization. Suresh wanted to convince his niece to return to India by showing her that her husband had not only violated caste traditions, but had also used their marriage to access her scientific knowledge, Patel testified. The case became even more complicated when it turned out that Vikram Mehta, Lakshmi's lover, also had ties to the Dharma Defenders. His cousin was an active member of the organization and acted as an intermediary between technology companies and radical caste groups. We found communications between Vikram and his cousin where they discussed Lakshmi, reports Detective Chen. Vikram wrote, "She knows too much. If she talks, the project will be shut down and we will all be prosecuted." After this discovery, Vikram Mehta suddenly disappeared from Chicago. Immigration authorities confirmed that he had returned to India, where all traces of him were lost. Meanwhile, an analysis of Lakshmi's computer revealed something startling. She herself had searched for information about Dattara 2 months before her death. In her search history, we found the following queries. Datura toxic properties. Possibility of detecting Datura in the body. Gradual Datura poisoning. This could mean that she suspected she was being poisoned and was trying to figure out how to prove it, Rodriguez suggests. But the toxicologist offers another version. Or, she was planning to poison someone herself. The search queries are focused on how to use the poison unnoticed. Arjun could have been a possible victim. After all, Lakshmi knew that he was not only betraying her personally, but also his ethical principles by working on a project that violated human rights. The situation becomes more complicated when the Dharma defenders publish an online manifesto, which, among other things, states, "Those who mix castes are destroying the millennial order of Dharma. They bring the karma of purification upon themselves." The publication appears exactly 6 months after Lakshmi's death, which is hardly a coincidence. Indian law enforcement agencies refuse to investigate the organization's activities, citing freedom of religious belief. Detectives question Arjun again, who is now being held under house arrest. He looks haggard and aged. "I knew Lakshmi was cheating on me. I knew about her affair with Vikram, but I didn't know she was pregnant," he says in a low voice. "I did install a hidden camera. I did follow her, but I didn't kill her. I couldn't. Despite everything, I still loved her." "Did you know that she was going to expose the Indra project?" asks Rodriguez. "Yes, we fought about it. I tried to explain that I didn't know the full scope of the project when I agreed to it. But when I found out the truth, it was too late to get out. There was too much money involved, too many influential people." "Who exactly?" "I can't name names. These people have long arms. They can reach anyone, even in America." When the detectives contact the Indian police to question Suresh Narayan, they are told the shocking news that Suresh died of a heart attack a week ago. His death occurred a day before his scheduled official interrogation. "Coincidence? Or is someone eliminating witnesses?" asks Chen. The lab finally completes the analysis of the spices sent to Lakshmi from India. They did indeed contain dhatu, but DNA analysis of the packaging yields an unexpected result. The fingerprints belong to Lakshmi Rao. Did she order these spices herself? Why would she poison herself? Rodriguez wonders. The final blow to the investigation is the disappearance of key evidence. A flash drive with video footage from a hidden camera mysteriously disappears from the evidence room. And the digital copy made by the experts turns out to be damaged. "Someone very powerful doesn't want the truth to come out," Rodriguez says. The Chicago prosecutor's office, given the contradictory evidence and the lack of direct evidence of Arjun's guilt, is forced to drop the murder charges against him. However, a parallel investigation into the Indra project leads to the closure of the program and the opening of a case of violation of ethical standards in the use of medical data. Arjun Rao, released from custody but fired from Google, and with a damaged reputation, returns to India. The latest surveillance footage shows him at the Delhi airport, where he is met by a representative of the Dharma defenders. The case of Lakshmi Rao's death officially remains open, but active investigation has been suspended due to lack of evidence. In this case, everyone involved has their own truth and their own lies, summarizes Detective Rodriguez. Arjun Rao could have killed his wife out of jealousy and fear of exposure. Suresh Narayan could have organized the murder of his niece to protect caste purity. Vikram Mehta could have gotten rid of Lakshmi when she became a threat to the project. Or, she could have planned her own death to take revenge on all those who betrayed her. Lakshmi's parents returned to India with their daughter's ashes, but refused to accept that the case may remain unsolved. "We know who killed our daughter. It was her husband. And if the American justice system is unable to prove it, we will seek justice in other ways," Vijay Narayan says before leaving. The only person who seems to be genuinely mourning Lakshmi is her friend Divya Chola. At a memorial service in Chicago, she shares her memories. Lakshmi was a straddle between two worlds, traditional India, where she was born, and modern America, where she longed to live freely. She challenged caste prejudice, but could not completely escape it. She was a brilliant scientist, but became a pawn in someone else's game. She sought love, but found betrayal. The mystery of Lakshmi Rao's death becomes a symbol of a broader conflict between ancient traditions and modern values, between cultural identity and personal freedom. A conflict that recognizes no borders and continues to affect the lives of millions of Indians around the world. The scariest thing about this story is that regardless of who pulled the trigger, whether metaphorical or literal, the real killer of Lakshmi Rao was a belief system that values caste purity above human life. Journalist Sheila Patel concludes her report. The camera pans away from a framed photo of a smiling Lakshmi on her parents' desk in Mumbai. Next to it is a traditional Indian oil lamp, a symbol that the soul has found peace. But has it? Some mysteries are too deep to solve, especially those rooted in traditions older than America itself.